33. Of course. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 This is Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter, text 34. Dronam Chandushmam Chajayadrattham Cha Karanam Tathanyan Apyudhavivam Mayatam Smam Jahimam Yatishta Rudashvachita Sirane Sakatnam. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight and you will vanquish your enemies in battle. That's the one you meant.
Actually, I was thinking of the one before. But that
Before.
was also good.
Okay, yeah. So 33. Tasmatvam tishtaya shulabhasva chitva shatrum bhungshurajam samridam mayayvate niyatam purvameva nimittamatram bhavasavyasachin. Therefore get up, prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Sabyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. And Srila Prabhupada explains, Sabyasachi refers to one who can shoot arrows very expertly in the field. Thus Arjuna is addressed as an expert warrior capable of delivering arrows to kill his enemies. Just become an instrument, nimitta matram. This word is also very significant. The whole world is moving according to the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Foolish persons who do not have sufficient knowledge think that nature is moving without a plan and all manifestations are but accidental formation. There are so many so-called scientists who suggest that perhaps it was like this or maybe like that, but there is no question of perhaps or maybe. There is a specific plan being carried out in the material world. What is this plan? The cosmic manifestation is a chance for the conditioned souls to go back to Godhead, back home. As long as they have the domineering mentality which makes them try to lord it over material nature, they are conditioned. But anyone who can understand the plan of the Supreme Lord and cultivate Krishna consciousness is most intelligent. The creation and destruction of the cosmic manifestation under the superior guidance of God. Thus, the battle of Kurukshetra was fought according to the plan of God. Arjuna was refusing to fight, but he was told that he should fight in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Lord. Then he would be happy. If one is in full Krishna consciousness, and his life is devoted to the Lord, is the Lord's transcendental service, he is perfect. And then as we read the next one, Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha and Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight, and you will vanquish your enemies in a battle. And Prabhupada again explains, every plan is made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is so kind and merciful to his devotees that he wants to give the credit to his devotees who carry out his plan according to his desire. Life should therefore move in such a way that everyone acts in Krishna consciousness and understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of a spiritual master. The plans of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are understood by his mercy, and the plans of the devotees are as good as his plans. One should follow such plans and be victorious in the struggle for existence. So I do remember a very time before we went out of the Sankirtan and distributing books on the street, we shouted this nimitta matram, nimitta matram. That means just become an instrument in this fight. And that's the perfection for a devotee actually. But why is it not happening really that much? And what prevents us to be actually a functionable instrument in Krishna's hands? Well, that mentality is described here, already mentioned, is the domineering mentality of this world. That no, I want to enjoy it myself. I want to dominate this myself. I want to control it myself. You know, sometimes it manifests in a, I want to be the well-wishing friend of everybody myself. You know, yeah, this is considered very noble. You know, all the altruists and everything. But it's based on the same consciousness. That I am doing this here. This is mine. And look how I share it with you. You know, with all this democracy and all this. It's another word for shared thievery. First you steal something like the robbers in a bank, and then they very democratically divide what they have stolen amongst themselves. That's generally the mentality of the conditioned soul. Nobody recognizes where these things came from. Nobody recognizes to whom they belong. And that mentality is so deep-rooted that even we try to serve Krishna, we always try to implement our own conditions. You know, yes, Krishna, I will serve you, I understood, okay. But not like that, like this, like that. And especially when you consider the situation here, the battlefield of Kurukshetra, this was all of them present, were very strong personalities. And they had an output and stamina and vigor which we cannot even imagine. So how much more you can be then illusioned that you are the doer. Just imagine you are Maharati, means the one who can fight with 10,000 men at once. So how much more you can actually think, wow, you know, I can kill them all. And there were examples, even in Arjuna's case, that actually is described at the end of Kurukshetra. When everything was finished, Krishna asked Arjuna to, he got down from the chariot, and he asked Arjuna if he can kindly step down from the chariot. And Arjuna wondered, why? We are sitting here on a battlefield, everybody is killed, we are the winners. He said, better you get down. So as soon as Arjuna stepped down from the chariot and took a proper distance, the whole chariot exploded immediately in 1,000 pieces. Why? Because actually it was charged with all the brahmastras and all the weapons which hit that chariot during the battle, but couldn't be effective because Krishna was there. And as soon as Krishna got down from the chariot, he asked Arjuna also to get down. The whole thing exploded in 1,000 pieces, meaning that actually Arjuna was supposed to be dead many times. We know even that incident as Krishna changed even the course of the battle to save Arjuna. Where there was actually, you know, this great situation where unlawfully Arjuna's son was killed by being tricked by a group of generals while his son, you know, was fighting. They surrounded him, which is completely against the law of Kshatriya. Kshatriya means 1-on-1, not 10 generals trying to kill a young boy. He was still young. And it was so unjust, and it was so, you know, and still he gave them all trouble. They almost couldn't kill him. Only with united effort they were able, and actually only after they cut off his hand with a sword, and he took up the sword from his cut off hand and kept on fighting with another hand. They couldn't get him down, you know. So finally they managed to kill him. So hearing that, you know, Arjuna made this vow that I will kill them all, and including the one who instigated all action. And if I don't, I will kill myself. That's a real samvava. And Kshatriya vow means it's permanent. So that was heard by spies. They had spies, you know, in the evening walking around. They reported immediately, Arjuna made this vow that if he doesn't kill this king next day, he will kill himself. And they were just, great! Well, the only thing we have to do is, for the next day battle, we have to hide the king all the way back, behind all these armies. And Arjuna will never make it to get to him. So that means he will kill himself, and this way we have one job done. We have to even kill Arjuna, he kills himself. So next day they arranged a formation called the needle. You know, that was a needle formation where all the armies were lined up behind each other in such a way that you had to really penetrate all them to get to the king, who was completely at the end. And Arjuna was doing a really good job. He was, even without a backup and without being supported, even the Pandavas started to get worried, because right away when the sun came up, that's where the battle started, he dashed through the armies, just plowing through the armies like a plow looking for the king, alone, with his charioteer. And the law is, they devised a trick, the Kshatriya, when he's challenged, he cannot refuse a challenge. So great generals came up and challenged him just to slow him down. And actually he did avoid them partially, and they were thinking, what? He's not fighting with me. Because he made this vow to kill that king. Still, the sun was slowly going down at the evening, and that was the sun going down, end of the battle for that day. So the sun, and suddenly he saw way back the king, and who was actually sitting on an elephant, guarded by several other elephants, by the most efficient bodyguards they could find. So it was a lost situation. They would not make it. But Arjuna was saying, anyway, it's nothing to lose. I will anyway, if I don't kill him, I will kill myself. So he was heading for that, for that king, with Krishna fully, speeding the horses. And as they reached the king, Arjuna already had a bow ready with this special arrow which had the shape of a half moon. It's rotating, and it cuts, you can cut a whole head like this, just whoosh. There are such arrows. Actually, until today there are such arrows, but they are not shot by bows, they are shot by crossbows. For crossbows there are special tips, special arrows which rotate, and they can create huge injuries. Anyway, yeah, it's a detail. I'm going into archery now. So when they saw the king, just as Arjuna was, the sun went down. And everybody realized, sundown, battle over, king is alive, Arjuna kills himself. So all the soldiers in opposing parties, they're throwing their weapons in the air, going, Jai! The same moment, the sun was standing in the horizon again. Even Arjuna was confused. He looked at Krishna. Krishna turned around and said, kill him immediately! So he just immediately released the arrow, and as the Lord Jaya standing there, no bodyguards, nothing, he just cut off the head of the king. And then the sun went down. Again, second time. There was a big confusion in the battlefield. Some soldiers were going, but the sun was already down. They said, no, it was still up, I saw it. And there was a big discussion, and Arjuna Krishna was smiling, and Arjuna said, let's go home for the day. And Arjuna knew perfectly well that to save him, Krishna moved even the sun up for a few seconds again. No problem. Krishna is God. So this is called Nimitta Matram, to be really a tool for Krishna. That means Krishna can do amazing things. He can do things which are far beyond of our imagination. Maybe you notice, and you will notice, that many devotees still move around with this kind of very nervous twinkling in the eye, a little bit fearful. This kind of tensity. Maybe you didn't notice yet, but the more you get actually tuned out of that tensity field, that doesn't mean you are not worried. That doesn't mean you are not concerned that you fall in Maya. That concern should always be there. But you are more aware of the field of action you are capable to operate in, and don't strive for some position you are not fit for. Okay? You just, basically what it boils down, that you are more aware of Varna. That gives you some peace. Like I know Krishna conscious affiliated people, you could say so, who have a great sympathy for Krishna consciousness. You could say they are devotees. But they don't practice as strictly as normal devotees do. They don't chant 16 rounds and they're not initiated. Right? But they are much more sometimes happily situated and steady in their work as a devotee can be. How come? It's confusing sometimes. And you think, hey, he doesn't even chant his rounds. He's not initiated. And he's working like anything. I mean now for years, not just for 1 week. You think, how does that work? I can give you an example. I know people like this. Because he's rightly situated. Rightly situated means in accordance to his material desires. Right? And he gets purified as long as he follows some regulation, some duties. According to how much he follows, he gets purified. Like family life, it's extremely purified. I mean, it's just an assembly of duties. If you take it, strictly spoken, it's just duties. And you want to have some fun. Where is it coming? It's just mental idea. It's just in the mind. Like most of the sense gratification is just basically mental concept. You know, yes, and when I worked hard, then I will sit at home in a sofa. You know, and then, what is I used to call them? Sofa sausages or something like this. You know, you just flank yourself in a sofa and you watch the TV. The sofa, you know, they have this kind of ideal Shudra. And this is my sofa and I'm surrounded by the family members and we can all watch TV together. I all relax and enjoy. You know, TV makes me transcendental because I don't know even if it's raining or you know, or dark outside, or I'm just surrounded by this huge screen and I can watch my favorite football match. Yeah. That's really bliss for Shuddha. You know, for other people it may be extremely boring, but that's what he considers bliss. So this is a concept, just a mental concept. So you're actually not enjoying much anything. But if you work hard for it, Prabhupada said, at least if you work hard for what you get, there is not as much karma as if you steal it. You know, or you unjustly, you know, claim it. So you work hard, that's it. Prabhupada said, like a gentleman. Gentleman is somebody who is aware of his weaknesses and he takes responsibility for that. Okay? I take the consequences. Okay? Like I get married, I can take the consequences. Happiness and distress, yeah, it comes and goes. But I got my duty, I made a vow here. Vows. So any field like this is in itself purifying, but of course the ultimate spiritual purification is just to surrender one's work to Krishna, that we know from Bhagavad Gita. So to become a tool in Krishna means to remove more and more that inherent, deep-rooted mentality, to revolt against his desire, against his will. And that's only possible when one is guarded and guided by a spiritual master. You know, I read to you today this wonderful quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita from Sankarshan Prabhu. He said that spiritual master can come in various versions. There's Diksha and there's a Shiksha, you know. They all may advise and they all may, you know, cooperate to actually bring the disciple back home, back to Godhead. Diksha we have one, Shikshas we can have many. You know. So if the effort is the same to bring one's back home, back to Godhead, and the disciple is soundly engaged under instruction of spiritual master, Krishna will even help him from inside by giving him the proper intelligence, how he can actually follow the instruction. You need intelligence for that. And that intelligence comes through actually three channels: Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. There's instruction from the Guru, there's instruction from the Shastra, and then there's the Parampara and the other devotees, the Shikshas, who may also give advice. However, one can also be diverted, or let's say distracted. Like very little devotees sometimes take in consideration that we have to be focused in our service. You know, we cannot do everything everywhere. That's especially in a beginning stage absolutely not recommended. Prabhupada said in a beginning stage, devotee should absorb himself in a particular service so severely, So he develops ruchi, taste for it, for that service. Prabhupada comments in Bhagavad Gita in the beginning that this may even happen without the full realization of Krishna's personality. We just kind of intuitively like what we are doing. You feel you get attached to it. No, I want to clean this. I must clean this. This is my service. No, I want to distribute the book. This is my service. But it's not like necessarily you sing 24 hours a day. For you, Krishna, the blue-covered boy, playing the flute with love and devotion, I'm serving you. You could safely say that during the day you forget Krishna in that sense that you don't remember exactly his personal image all the time, as people would do who are completely in love. It's not a strange concept, being in love. People do that all the time. Man cannot get rid of the image of the woman. The woman cannot get rid of the image of the man. I know you, Mangrihasta, that's really exceptional. Believe it or not, such things do exist. He wakes up at night while his wife is sitting next to him chanting to protect him while he sleeps. Oh. Wow! There's one little danger, you can get quite attached to such a wife. I guess I would. But I never experienced anything like this, so that's okay. But believe it, it's that woman lives with the image of the husband, and she's not Paramahamsa's age. I don't think so. But such a thing is possible. So obviously, such a relation to Krishna is not really, let's get serious. I mean, we don't have Krishna's image 24 hours a day in our mind, that's strongly installed. But we know that this is good to serve him. Yes. And we know he exists. Otherwise, how can you maintain a service like this? But like, you may know that the police exist, you may know that the bank director exists, but you don't see him all the time. So Prabhupada said such a level of devotional service in the beginning, it's sadhana. This is called sadhana bhakti, which is performed, even ritualistic, with not that precise emotional, ecstatic, active relationship, but you serve, you're a servant, you serve. Even you don't see the master, you serve him anyway. That's good. And then, when Krishna reveals oneself to them, then it becomes more and more personal. Up to the point of nimitta matra. Where Krishna goes, turn left, you turn left. And Krishna goes, speak to him, you speak to him. And then that person becomes a devotee. And then you go to the next one. And then actually you emanate Krishna's personality so much that the conditioned souls just break out of their conditioning and automatically, ecstatically surrender to you. Why? Well, not because of you, because they want Krishna. Everybody wants Krishna one way or another. But because we are so covered, we cannot reflect Krishna so purely, well, they end up with the image of our body, our false ego, our whatever. That's maybe not so attractive. So that's what a preacher really thinks all the time. Krishna, please let me reflect you. As a mirror reflects purely, it gets very interesting. If it's dusty, if it's covered by dust, and it may reflect something, but you don't know what is it. That's not so attractive. But a crystal clear mirror just reflecting the image, you think, sometimes the mirrors are so clearly reflecting that you cannot see actually the difference. They are actually Italians are the best mirror makers. Venice especially. So I don't want to get into it again. I was lost in the statistic details, but visiting glass, Murano and anything around glass and mirrors in Italy, you have to go to Venice. And they make such a slick mirror, so clear, crystal clear. You think this is just another entrance into another door, especially when it's nicely polished. So such a reflection Oh, that makes Krishna consciousness interesting. That actually means nimitta matra. So everybody can experience it. Krishna can use anybody who Krishna chooses to use. That's all. But generally he makes a condition. If wants to be of a good use, then one has to follow somebody who is already in full use. And that's called parampara. So that's generally one reflects the other. That's parampara. Krishna is reflected by this guru, he reflects into that guru, he reflects into that guru, and that last guru reflects into us. The only thing we have to strive to be an efficient reflection, and then we become a member of the parampara club. And that's not easy because there's constant resistance, constant idea, independent ideas. So in ideal sense, in a Vedic sense, the disciple doesn't do anything without approval of spiritual master. No. He doesn't go anywhere, doesn't do anything, doesn't preach anything. There was recently I heard a story of one devotee who is not known to be a very good lecturer or very eloquent lecturer. Right? Devotees are not so, they think, yeah, okay, he gives lecture and he goes, Krishna is good. And we are only good when we surrender to Krishna. Finished. Anyway, that devotee has another habituation how to stress spirituality, like stressing very much to follow the institutional parampara, whatever. Anyway. But he suddenly gave a very eloquent lecture, and everybody was like, whoa, what is this? He never gave a lecture like this. And after the lecture they came to me and said, how did you do that? I mean, you are now changing, you are studying. Wow. He said, no. It's the only lecture I know. Why? Because I learned it word by word from my spiritual master. So I just simply repeated that. Everybody was going, wow, that's unbelievable. It's a simple example. I personally remember Hare Krishna explaining to us once how in Vrindavan, Prabhupada used to do that. In a very unpredictable way, he was sitting there, supposed to give a lecture, and suddenly he turned to his secretary and said, you give a lecture. Unprepared. He said, Hare Krishna, it was the most scary experience you could imagine, to have Prabhupada sitting like this, in front of a vast audience of devotees, and then you are supposed to give lecture. And you hear it on many recorded Prabhupada's lecture, quite few, where these attempts fail. You know, like the devotee starts, well, therefore Krishna says in Bhagavatam, Karanam Tatanya, very important. Prabhupada goes, that's the end of his lecture, because he kind of started in the wrong foot. Then Prabhupada takes over, and that becomes part of the Prabhupada's recorded lectures. You can hear there are few lectures who start like this. The Prabhupada is taking over after a disciple who crashed. But Hare Krishna, he gave me his experience of what happened to him. He said he was so scared that he precisely repeated with closed eyes, concentrating. Just the last lecture, more or less, he heard from Prabhupada in another location because he traveled around, you know. So he very carefully, word by word, repeated what Prabhupada said with the quotes and everything. And then when he was finished, he was scared. He just waited that from Prabhupada,